curriculum video for Year 5 and 6 for the autumn term. In English for the autumn term, we are going to be linking our writing to other topics that the children will be learning about. We'll start off with non-chronological reports, linking to science. We'll be writing a non-chronological report on light, which will be informed by our science topic and our own research. The children will learn how to effectively write a non-chronological report to inform their reader. We have already started looking at the structure and the language used, so your children might already be able to tell you some things about that. We will be writing narratives and they will link to our history learning. Our narratives will be based around Rose Blanche, and the children will build on their skills in writing descriptively to create settings and characters, as well as showing how characters communicate through dialogue. During this unit, the children will also learn how to create tension and suspense in their writing. We will then move on to writing a biography of Winston Churchill. The children will be using their knowledge of Winston Churchill gained in our history learning to create an informative biography. They'll learn the difference between autobiography and biography and how this will impact on how they write. We will then move on to writing letters to Winston Churchill, keeping with the World War II theme. We'll be writing letters to Winston Churchill with the purpose of persuading him to consider the impacts of war on Britain. The children will think carefully about the language that they are using in order to persuade and the level of formality that they will need to use in this letter. During maths this term, we have started off by looking at place value. Year 5 are going to be working with numbers up to 1 million and Year 6 with numbers up to 10 million. We're partitioning and rounding these numbers as well as comparing them to understand the value. We will then move on to looking at addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. After place value, as these are the 4 key operations in maths, we'll be doing this with up to 4-digit numbers. In this unit, we'll also be teaching the children factors, multiples, prime numbers, square and cube numbers, as well as giving them strategies to work some of these concepts out mentally. The Year 5s and 6s will be doing slightly different maths, so if you do have any questions on maths, then please speak to your child's class teacher. After that, we'll move on to fractions. The children will learn how to calculate equivalent fractions and simplify them. They will also be able to convert improper fractions to mixed numbers and vice versa. And later on in the unit, they will be able to compare and order them, as well as add, subtract, multiply and divide fractions. By the end of the unit, they'll be able to find the fraction of an amount. In reading this term, we have got 4 class novels to take us up until Christmas. We are looking at Holes, we are looking at Skellig, Letters from the Lighthouse and Can You See Me? Each book is different and explores different themes that will broaden the children's reading diet. We will also be introducing the children to a range of recommended texts during our theme text reading lessons. During these lessons, the children practice the reading skills that they need, as well as delving into the themes and thinking about those themes that crop up. During science in the autumn term, our first unit is light. The children will be able to recognise that light appears to travel in straight lines. They will use the idea that light travels in straight lines to explain how objects are seen because they give out or reflect light into the eye. The children will be able to explain that we see things because light travels from light sources to our eyes or from light sources to objects and then into our eyes. We will then be using the idea that light travels in straight lines to explain why shadows have the same shape as the objects that cast them. Our second unit will be electricity. The children will be able to associate the brightness of a lamp or a volume of a buzzer with the number and voltage of cells used in a circuit. They'll be able to compare and give reasons for variations in how components function, including the brightness of bulbs, the loudness of buzzers, and on-off position of switches. They will use recognised symbols when representing a simple circuit in a diagram in their work. If you have any questions about the science learning, then please do come and speak to a class teacher. We can support you in supporting the children at home with any of this as well. We are going to start off the autumn term with art. We are focusing on the children's drawing skills. We are focusing on a wonderful British artist, L.S. Lowry. He was an official war artist during World War II and produced drawings like the one shown on screen now. The children were practicing different drawing techniques using different materials based on those shown in Lowry's drawings. By the end of the unit, the children will practice their own drawing of a World War II scene using the techniques that they are focused on during our art lessons. After the half term, we will be moving on to DT, and in DT the children will be building on previous knowledge. They'll be researching different foods, where they come from, and the purpose of the foods. We will also be designing a meal for a specific occasion, and the children will follow a recipe to produce the food. After that, they will be evaluating their efforts and working out what they could have done better and what went well. During our read this term, we are focusing on both Islam and Christianity. Islam in the first half term and Christianity in the second. The children are going to be building on their existing knowledge. They'll be thinking about key questions around the two religions, and we'll be thinking about the themes of commitment and devotion. We'll be doing this in a number of ways, including the children's favourite, a class debate. During PSHE this term, we will be focusing on relationships and value and difference. We will be following the SCARF PSHE scheme as the whole school does. Our relationships unit will be exploring what safe and respectful relationships look like and how we can create and manage them. The children will also begin to think about boundaries and how they can respect the boundaries of others and their own. The relationships that we will discuss will include both online and offline relationships with a focus on safety and respect. When we move on to value and difference, the unit allows children to explore their own differences as well as those of others. We'll be discussing why it's important to value these differences and how they can do this respectfully and encourage those around them to do so too. This is always an open and honest discussion where the children can feel safe and ask any questions that they might have. History and geography this term focuses on World War II. During history, the children have already identified the causes for the outbreak of World War II, and they'll go on to evaluate the effectiveness of kinder transport and evacuation and compare the two. They will be looking into the sensitive topic of the Holocaust and will be able to describe the key events that took place. If your children come home with any questions and you would like support in talking to them about this topic, then please do come to your class teacher. We will also be looking more locally and identifying the role that Lincolnshire played in World War II. Finally, the children will be looking at life after the war and the impact of the war on different groups of children. We've already heard some great information from the children, and that research at home is always so strongly encouraged. In geography, the children will use their map skills to identify and locate the countries that fought in World War II. They will also be looking at the geographical features of the countries and investigating the part that they had to play in the events of the war. We want the children to be able to geographically analyse the countries to identify why or how these events happened. During computing this term, we were firstly focusing on using tech safely and responsibly, and then moving on to looking at web page creation. We'll first be discussing how to use technology safely and responsibly. This covers everything from age recommendations to communication with others online. The children will all be taught how to report things that concern them online. If you do need any support in talking to your children, or you have any questions about them communicating online, then please do come to your class teacher. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. After that, we will be moving on to web page creation. The children will be introduced to creating websites for a chosen purpose. They will identify what makes a good web page and use this information to design and evaluate their own. Throughout the process, they pay specific attention to copyright and fair use of media, the aesthetics of the site, and navigation paths. They'll also consider the impacts of linking to other pieces of content on their own websites. Our PE units this term are basketball and netball. During the 2 units, the children will focus their passing skills while learning the rules of each game. They'll concentrate on their spatial awareness in order to play effectively, and will work on being good team players while strategizing to beat their opponents. Whilst we don't set any formal homework for the children, there are a few things that we expect them to do to help themselves in their day-to-day learning. The first one is home reading, and we expect that the children read for 10 minutes 3 times a week. On Shovey, there will be a home reading folder for them to add their voice notes into. They receive a dojo point each time that they upload. If you do need any help with Shovey logins, then talk to your class teacher and we can get that sorted. Spellings. The weekly spellings are uploaded onto Shovey at the start of the week. We expect 5 minutes practicing each day, and that will help them. They have a pre-test on a Monday to see how many of the words they do actually know already. We have targeted practice twice in the week, and then a test on a Friday. And finally, TT Rockstars. We recommend the children work on TT Rockstars up to 5 times a week to help them with their times table knowledge.